Okay, perfect. Well, welcome everybody. It's our biweekly call, or it's our weekly community call that this week is going to be featuring a special guest, Drew from Numa, and our biweekly. Drew, very nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. Good to meet you as well.
I'm kind of excited for this one because usually I get a chance to do a little bit of research ahead of time of each of the special guests and the protocols that are coming, but I didn't have much time to actually research into Numa, so I'm very excited to kind of learn about it. Can you give us just a short introduction to what it is?
Sure, I'll try to keep it short. Um, Basically, Numa, we make a lot of comparisons to Luna, which is usually a bad word, but we make the comparisons because we feel confident that we're doing something better and safer. But it's basically like Luna, but every Numa token is backed by Rocket ETH at the current market price, um, which is a pretty big difference, and I could explain more about that. Also, something that's distinct about what we're doing is that we can mint synthetics of all sorts of assets, not just stable coins, including real world assets. And then we're able to pay sustainable yield on both our LPs and our single stakers of our assets. And all of that is powered by Rocket ETH, which is part of the reason I'm here. But yeah, we're pretty excited about what we built so far and what we're going to build coming forward. So when we launch our synthetics, the first ones will be new USD, as we call it. We call all of our synthetics new money, in line with Numa. So we call it new money, and we'll have new USD, we'll have new BTC, and we'll have new gold. That'll be our first three. We'll be expanding from there, and all of those assets will be, again, backed by Rocket ETH, and then also be paying yield from it as well.
Oh, excellent. And then would you describe these as what, algorithmic stable coins? Are they designed to be stable or?
Yeah, they're designed to be stable. I probably wouldn't call them algorithmic. It's a little bit different. So the way that it works is it's like the Luna model where you burn and mint. It's very similar, but you put up collateral in order to create Numa tokens. So you deposit Rocket ETH into our vault, and the vault is live right now. And once you put up the rETH, you can take your Numa and you burn it and mint the synthetics. So we think of it as more of a sort of a combination between what you might think of as an algorithmic stablecoin and a more of a traditional sort of custodial stablecoin, because there are a lot of similar mechanisms for pegging in the way that algorithmic stablecoins work, but we actually have all the reserves because we have a vault. So we call it transparent proof of reserve. So there are the algorithmic mechanisms, as you might call it, but then there is this stockpile of rETH that is backing everything up and transparently collateralized on chain, which makes it unique. And then we're able to pay a lot higher yield, and it's sustainable. So the Numa token, I'll say a little bit about, because the Numa token is kind of unique. Like I said, the token itself is kind of it's basically a derivative of rETH, but it accrues value against rETH. So the first month we launched our vault at the beginning of March, and in the first month that we were live, it accrued 30% against rETH. And so the Numa token itself is a pretty interesting aspect, but the whole point of it is to collateralize the synthetics. But we actually anticipate most of the volume and use will actually be around the Numa token itself. Um, we're in the process of launching our lending and leverage aspects of our protocol too. It's an upgrade to our vault, which will increase the opportunity to basically leverage Rocket ETH.
Excellent. And so maybe you work me through this just a little bit here, as I'm kind of a DeFi noob. If I have some rETH, let's say I've got $1,000 worth of rETH, and I deposit it, what do I get from depositing into that vault? Do I get $1,000 worth of numa, or do I just is there some loan to value ratio that I get?
You never get liquidated on your numa. So you get you get numa in return, but there are kind of two things going on. So it trades. So the numa token trades normally on Uniswap. It's live right now. It trades against DAI. But to and every numa token that comes into existence has to be backed by rETH. But in the vault, if you want to mint more numa, there's a 5% fee, and if you want to burn more numa or burn your numa, there's a 5% fee. So the price is always essentially bouncing between what we call the upper band and the lower band. So the market rate, or the backing price is really what it's called. The backing value of a numa token plus 5%, or the backing value of the numa token minus 5%. So right now we're actually at the lower band in our liquidity pool. The price on Uniswap is like 35% or something like that. But the actual backing value of those numa tokens is actually, I don't know, call it 37 or something. What's 5% of that? 36 and a half. That's actually the backing value of it. So if you have $1,000 of Rocket ETH, you could actually buy below the backing price right now. But yeah, you never get liquidated on simply just holding the numa token.
Okay, excellent. And then what do I do with the numa token? That's not your stable coin, right? I have to exchange that for your stable.
Yeah, um, you either just sit on it because like I said, it gains value against rETH like perpetually. So it's a leveraged long against rETH that can't get liquidated. So you either just sit on it or you burn it to mint one of the synthetics. And if you're holding one of the synthetics, the way that it works is in that 5% fee of the vault transaction, 4% is retained and added to the backing of the token. So that's why the vault continues to accrue Rocket ETH and move up against it, right? And then the 1% goes to yield. And so we kind of have two things going on where, so if you have new USD and you're staking it, you're earning yield that is coming from fees from vault transactions. And then we also scrape the value accrual of Rocket ETH out of the vault. So obviously this is the rETH community, so you guys probably know even more about it than I do. But let's say it's accruing value at 3% a year. We actually scrape that 3% out of the vault, pay it out, and then we also pay the fees for interacting with the vault out to these single stakers. And based on the yield that we're getting right now, we're projecting we're going to be able to pay like 50% APR on staking any one of our new money assets. But the Numa token itself is sort of a proxy for rETH that's leveraged long against it.
Excellent. And why did you choose rETH as your initial collateral deposit?
Well, I'd been reading. Obviously, there are several different options like Lido and Frax and whatnot, and it seemed like rETH was the most decentralized. That's sort of one of the founding sort of principles, and kind of the point behind Numa is with any sort of custodial stablecoin or synthetic or whatever, you have to trust this third party. And the whole point of Numa is that we're collateralizing synthetics on chain. with this transparent proof of reserves, we're all familiar with all the problems of custodial services in crypto and issuing tokens based on them just holding your assets. I always remember this was years ago, but when I first wanted to get WBTC, and they had this, I don't know what it looks like now, but BitGo had this very simple page where they're like, send us your Bitcoin and we'll send you tokens, essentially, which was a pretty scary thing to see. And that's kind of the whole point of Numa, is to decentralize that. And so in my reading about rETH, it was the most decentralized of any of these LST tokens. So and there's enough liquidity, so that was our starting point and what we thought was the best choice.
Oh, interesting. And then you also mentioned, as another kind of technical thing, you said the numa, I guess, can be exchanged for new money, but you also mentioned new BTC and new gold. Is that linked to a real world asset, or what is that?
No, it's so we will the roadmap. I'll kind of give the bigger picture. So the roadmap is new USD, new ZAR. Actually, the South African rand. We have a pretty important partner in South Africa, so that'll be one of the first ones too. We'll do the new euro, new gold, or sorry, new pound, and then we'll do new gold, new silver, new oil. These are all minted using the Chainlink price feed. So at the point of minting, we just ping whatever the conversion rate should be between Numa and whatever we're minting. And so no, there is no, I think that's what makes us very distinct and is important about what we're doing, different from what a lot of these other real world asset things or protocols are doing, is that it's purely based on arbitrage and then the backing of Rocket ETH behind it. So in the same way that UST or Terra was wasn't sitting on dollars, we're not sitting on any of these assets either. The only thing we're sitting on is our ETH, and that's what's backing everything. And we have several layers of mechanisms to maintain the peg, but the big thing, and I would love to actually show you what it looks like, because it's a little kind of confusing. But in a scenario where there's like a depegging or like a death spiral, if you consider like a max fear situation, the price of Numa actually increases and the rETH backing of Numa increases. Anytime anybody burns or mints Numa, or the supply is going up or down, more and more rETH backs it. And so in a fear situation, if you think about the way that Luna collapsed and Terra collapsed, Luna was at its peak market cap, Terra was at its peak market cap, and the whole thing was over leveraged, right? So Terra started to spiral, Luna started to spiral. In our situation, it's also arbitrarily pegged. But if something like new USD or new gold starts to depeg and people start to panic and try to run for the exits, the price of Numa actually goes up. And the more people panic, the more Numa goes up and the more it's backed. So those kinds of situations we basically think that we have designed those out, and we're able to, that's why we're able to create these synthetic assets without actually holding the assets themselves, through the arbitrage and the transparent proof of reserves, and these other mechanisms for backstopping any of the pegs.
Oh, interesting. It sounds very, very, very interesting and kind of very unique, I suppose, in that approach for it. And so I guess the real world assets that you allude to are really just a synthetic version of them, right? They trade and are priced based on the real world asset, but they don't really represent an actual holding of that real world asset. Is that correct?
Yep, exactly.
Oh, excellent, excellent. And then you said that it is live and available right now, correct?
Yeah, the Numa token has been trading since October. And a couple weeks after we launched, I started reading about protocols like Libra and Prisma and stuff like that. And we had a totally different model when we launched. And I just realized that we were missing the boat in terms of, utilizing LST yield. And so we went underground and basically went totally silent and went to work on the vault because we needed the vault in order to start backing the token by rETH. And we launched the vault on, I think it was March 5th. And so the token is live, the vault is live, and then we are wrapping up what we're calling Vault 2.0, which is our lending and leverage aspects of the protocol. We're going to start our audit on that in probably 2 weeks. We're kind of finishing up the schedule there, and then hopefully by the end of June we'll have the synthetics live too. So there are many aspects to the protocol, but when Vault 2.0 goes live, which is probably a few weeks out, you'll be able to borrow against Numa, and you'll also be able to borrow against rETH using our vault interest free, which we also think is pretty unique. And then you'll be able to leverage up too. So you could, in sort of the typical DeFi fashion where you borrow, rebuy, that looping sort of cycle, you'll be able to take Rocket ETH, put it in our vault, get Numa, run that back, multiple times to leverage up. So it creates even more utility for our protocol, but even more utility for rETH too. So because again, our whole system is reliant on rETH.
Excellent. And then what about the part of the redemption for Numa for your, transparently transparent proof of asset stablecoin?
You mean how do you
Yeah, I mean, I guess
unwind
like, or I guess is the function to convert Numa to new USD, is that functional right now?
No, so that's the synthetics part of the protocol that we're looking at more like the end of June for, um, and that so we're actually pretty much done with all the dev part of that. It's just really the way that our audit process, audits are sort of can go all over the place. So we're just estimating based on previous experience and how we feel we've done as a team. But yeah, so you would burn Numa to mint new USD, and then to exit that position, you could burn your new USD and mint Numa. All of that will be live when the rest of the synthetics protocol is live, or when the synthetics protocol is live.
Oh, excellent. And then a couple of last questions for you here. I guess one of those, are there any incentives right now, either from the Rocket Pool Incentive Committee or through Numa, for individuals to deposit into your vault?
No, and that's something we've been. So DJ is my partner. We're kind of the two of us kind of started this thing. We got a bigger team than that, but we've been a bit busy the past couple weeks, and that's what we've been trying to figure out, and haven't really gotten enough time to work on how that would look. I don't know if this is the venue for it, but that was one of the things we were talking about in terms of applying for I guess you guys call it like a incentives grant or something. I don't know, but how RPL would even make sense in our protocol. But it seems that that's one of the things I had said was, what if we're just incentivizing just straight up deposits, because I think we're the third biggest. We haven't really done anything yet, and I think we're the third biggest wallet on Arbitrum for Rocket ETH. And we're expecting to get a lot bigger than that. So yeah, I don't know. That's probably a conversation for another time. But yeah, that's figure out how to incentivize it.
Yeah, interesting. And you just shared a little tidbit there that you're on Arbitrum, you decided to launch on. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess I probably could have said that at the beginning, but yeah, we're on Arbitrum.
No, I actually think it's great. I think that's where I'm of the big philosophy that all the users should be on one of the layer twos. I don't think I have a preference for one over the other, but I think that's definitely where the protocol should be building versus layer one. So I'm very excited to hear that. And yeah, I definitely would encourage you to reach out to the IMC. I sit on the grants management committee. It's different than our incentives management committee, but definitely there's a channel here in the Discord to reach out and kind of share. Many, if not all, the community members will hear this call on replay here, and so it's certainly worth striking up a conversation with them to see if it makes sense to have any incentive partnership on this thing. It could be very beneficial for our ETH holders.
Yeah.
Drew, is there anything that we haven't covered about NUMA that you feel is important for our community to know about?
I guess I could say the kind of the backstory here, and why it's related to us choosing Arbitrum is that we have some unannounced or unreleased partnerships that are gonna bring this thing into the real world, and it really came down to fees. Arbitrum, especially with, I can't remember what the recent upgrade was called, but you're paying a penny for transactions. So this isn't kind of just a pie in the sky and hope we get liquidity situation. We have very real use cases and onboard and on ramp and off ramp pipelines set up to actually make this thing spin, which is really kind of how the whole thing started. My background and I guess experience in forex and arbitrage trading and stuff like that creates a lot of real use cases, and I'm sure I don't have to convince anybody of the idea that you could pay sustainable yield on assets that don't normally earn yield, like gold. That's valuable, but the other piece of the equation is that once this thing is done, we have a rollout plan, which we will be more public about and transparent about as we get a little bit closer. But right now we're just in the building phase. But we're pretty excited about it overall, and think we're in a good position. So.
Excellent. And then if folks that listen to this want to know more about NUMA or to get a hold of you, where should they go to find out more and contact you?
Our Telegram is pretty active. I'm in there all the time and open to biz dev calls or partnerships or whatever. Always happy to talk about it and get better at my pitch. But the Telegram is really where the activity is. On Twitter, we're at Numa Money, and on our website is numa.money, and you can find our Telegram on either of those. But yeah.
Oh, perfect. Well, excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I've been kind of monitoring our community channel. It's called Trading of All Things, but it's mainly where everybody's kind of chatting in there here. And I don't think I've seen any questions from the community, but let me just, before I let you go, let me just open it up to anybody here on the call to see if anybody has questions. All right. Well, Drew, thank you very much for coming on and sharing a little bit about what NUMA is, and I'm sure people are going to be very interested to check it out. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. Good to meet you.
Excellent. All right, let me look back over here, and I do see that Langers has joined us here. Good morning to you, Langers.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's the end of a day, getting towards the end of it, so it's it's almost 5 o'clock beer time for me.
5 o'clock beer time, did you say?
Yeah, 5 o'clock beer time.
It's always beer time in Australia.
Yeah, I've got that impression. I don't know why, but I've got that impression.
Not quite, but it will be. It will be soon.
So I'm here to talk about the biweekly update that Mav puts together every fortnight, as they say, and I guess a couple of things here. The rETH supply looks like it declined about 1.3% here. The pending active mini pool count also declined just ever so slightly at just a negative 0.2%. So basically about held even here. However, the node operator count increased just slightly at about 0.4%. So that looked a little positive to see that here. It also looked like the deposit pool had a very large deposit, and so we're either near or at capacity here, if I recall correctly. So we're still very much in a node operator short environment.
Yeah, the deposit pool is looking quite bare for a little while.
Yeah, it sort of reached. I kind of thought, well, did we reach an equilibrium balance? I mean, at some point that should kind of come, right, where there's an ebb and flow. But it looks like that balance was short again, and it still is looking forward as more people looking for rETH, perhaps with kind of new integrations like this we learned from Numa, or perhaps it's just more interest back in LST tokens as LRT tokens begin to fade. I don't know. It's interesting to watch the dynamics play out.
Yeah, it is interesting. I need to be a bit more kind of aware of it. I know Eigen was announced, and I kind of I've been avoiding crypto Twitter a little bit, if I'm honest. But I kind of got a gist of what was going on with everything. It is going to be interesting to see how the next kind of like few weeks and months play out with all that stuff. So I think that's been kind of sucking the air out of the room a little bit. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens up once kind of a lot of that resolves, I guess. However that resolves.
Yeah, it's always interesting in the crypto space, and I think as it begins to grow larger and larger with more, I'll call it mainstream adoption or more institutional use cases, the stories begin to be ever more complex, and kind of the cycles get more complicated, and so it is always interesting to kind of pay attention and see what's going to come next, either out of will there be a marketplace developed around restaking? Will there be use cases for it? Will they come fast enough that the investors that went after that will be rewarded? Or do people start chasing the next new thing that's coming down the pike? I don't know. It is interesting.
You'd think restaking at the moment is still, I mean, staking, to be honest, is probably still quite early adopter territory, although we're probably getting into the point where you're getting the early majority a bit in staking, because I think we've been around for what seems like forever in the crypto kind of like timeline. But like, restaking is still relatively, well, when I say relatively new, it's very new because most of it's not launched. So so I think that's probably still got a little bit to go. I think that you're still talking about early adopters with restaking. Yeah, it's good, but it's good to see, to some degree, it's good to see staking mature a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a look now at the next topic here, which was the smart node, and it was kind of a sort of busy release, both for Joe and I suppose both for Fornax here, right? We had on mainnet, we had smart node version 1.13 released, and then shortly after that, there was a number of, client updates that were recommended updates and some bug fixes. So then we had version 1.13.1 released. And then at the same time, for those that are on the testnet, on the Holesky testnet only, Joe released the well well loved and well kind of reworked smart node client, right? That I think he was very excited to be able to focus entirely on. And so it launched with version 2.0 beta 1. I guess there was some, as any good release is, there were some early bugs found and quickly fixed. And version 2.0 came out just a few days ago. Langers, any comments or thoughts about these client releases here?
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the smart node at the moment. As you said, we've got two parallel versions at the moment, although version 2 is definitely like a beta. So we're not recommending it for mainnet at the moment. It's only for testnet. But yeah, we've got two kind of like versions that we're running at the moment. Joe obviously has put in a massive amount of work into V2. So and it's really exciting. We're kind of looking to transition to that as soon as we can. Really, that's kind of the plan. I think Fornax, every time Fornax puts out a release, he waits for ages to make sure that there's no client releases, and then he puts out a release, and within like half an hour of him releasing the client release, the clients say they've updated. So I feel for Fornax every time he puts out a release, because he knows that there's a geth release coming within about half an hour. But no, yeah, so there is a lot going on with the smart node at the moment. But no, it's really good. We've the version 1 is Houston compatible. So again, people are using that on the Holsky testnet to test out Houston. V2 is Houston compatible because it's not compatible with anything before Houston. And so yeah, so it's it's really good. It's good to kind of iron out those bugs in kind of in both the V1 post Houston and the V2 client as well.
Yeah, perfect. And so I think one of the key takeaways there is, version 2 of the smart node stack really isn't intended to be released until mainnet is past the Houston release and a little bit of time after that, and then that's when you'll be targeting or setting a release date for version 2 on mainnet. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we want to kind of like keep the number of variables to a minimum, if you know what I mean, the number of factors that we have to deal with for the release. So we'll be using version 1 for Houston, and the fact that version 2 doesn't support anything pre-Houston anyway. So we'll use version 1 for a little bit after Houston's released, and then we'll kind of like try to schedule a version 2 switchover not long after that. But we want to try and give it a little bit of time just to make sure everything's kind of running okay and everyone's happy.
All right, excellent. Well, since we're on my next favorite topic here, which is Houston here, it was mentioned that the audit reports were released in the biweekly, and there was a nice kind of review of the upgraded code against the spec. And I guess it was noted that there was some deficiencies about the spec that we were trying to obtain, and then the actual code that is programmed for it. Any comments about either of those two?
Yeah, it seems like the community core gets the bread quite often. So yes, so some discrepancies were found between the code and the kind of RPIPs. We discussed for quite a while on whether we could kind of work with those discrepancies, and first of all, we acknowledge those discrepancies, and we should have caught them during our QA process. So yeah, that's definitely something that we'll look at internally. But second of all, we tried to look through and see whether we could go ahead with them with those things. But to be honest, once we've kind of had a really good discussion with the community as well, we've kind of deemed that we need to just fix them. So one of the things, so what that kind of means is that we need to audit the we need to audit. So we need to develop the fixes. We need to audit it, and we need to test it. That's kind of like our development process. Now, audits. So development wise, the fixes are very, very simple, and so Kane basically has already done those fixes. Sigma Prime have been absolutely amazing, so they are actually auditing it now, and so I'm not going to like preempt when they're going to be finished though, but they're ideally, no, actually I won't preempt, but they're going to be, they're auditing it now. So and it's a very small change. So I'll just say that. So they're auditing now. Ideally, we would be able to deploy it to testnet. The new changes next week, and just retest those elements just to make sure that everything's okay. And then we can proceed. The only unfortunate thing about that is it probably pushes our timeline out by about a week. I need to double check that once I review the timeline today. But I think it pushes the timeline out by about a week. So yeah, that's what we're looking at the moment. But I mean, it's unfortunate that we've kind of had to delay it by a week. But the fact that we've been able to kind of like make the fixes, get them audited, and then ideally test them next week is pretty positive, I think.
Yeah, well, that was much. I mean, I think it's absolutely the right thing to do, right? As you said, right? You gotta get it right so it meets the spec, and certainly taking the time to launch it one time and do it correctly. And any change of code is always particularly, fraught with danger, if you will. So it is important to have the audits. But I was surprised that the delay would only be a week. It seems very positive to me. So, so you have a sense of that, or do you think it might be a little bit more than that, or you haven't really had a chance to really kind of look at the entire schedule impact?
I mean, that's my sense, but I need to confirm that when I redo the or kind of when I adjust the timelines and that sort of thing. I haven't quite been able to do that, and so I'm going to be doing that today. But yeah, so at the moment, my sense is it'll push it out by a week, but I'll confirm that when I'll confirm that through an announcement this afternoon.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much for the early bread on that. The other thing is, I recall last week in Jasper's call, he'd spent a little bit of time looking at the audit reports in detail. And I have a recollection, I don't have my notes in front of me here, but I have a recollection that there were a couple items in the report that indicated something like a finding that wasn't addressed, or it didn't marked resolved, or rejected by the team, right, or declined by the team. Did you have a chance to follow up what those were, or get any better clarity on those?
I did. And I did actually put a thing in trading. One sec.
Wait, you post in trading? Wait, what?
I did. And I tagged you as well. I tagged you and Jasper.
Oh no.
Kane checked our notes on those open Sigma issues. Number 14 is actually resolved, and so we can get them to update the report. Number 18 was downgraded as an informational. We spent a considerable amount of time looking at it, and there's no exploitable risk. Not sure why they left it as open. I guess it could be acknowledged or something. We'll have a chat to them. And then when we followed up with Sigma, and I believe they're updating the report. That was, I think, where we got to.
Oh, perfect. Oh, I'm sorry I missed that message, but thank you very much for the follow up on there. It sounds really good, and yeah, I would encourage, to whatever degree they can actually just put that amount of follow up into the report. I think it shows good due diligence and closing the loop on the findings.
Yeah, cool. No, so will be for this particular thing that we're doing in terms of the fixes for the discrepancies. they'll be adding those to the report. So we'll kind of reissue the report with obviously with the updated statuses of those items and with the new discrepancy fixes in there as well.
Excellent. Okay, maybe we'll head on to the governance section for the biweekly here. The governance here had a couple of things. There is some feedback being requested by Joe, I believe, on the rewards tree spec version 10 that's out there. We always are trying to have a specification, and now I think maybe it's an RIP specification to actually how the rewards tree is generated. The GMC had a number of reports that were released and published, as well as
just on V10. I'm not sure whether V10 is proceeding anymore or not. I'll kind of like figure out whether. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not quite sure. I'll let that kind of like unfold on the forums, but I'm not sure whether V10 is proceeding or not.
Oh, interesting. I missed that. I did catch that. I guess last night there was a bug in the rolling records or rolling whatever it is, rolling records, I think, right? That had a small calculation error that resulted in maybe a tree that was slightly off, impacting nodes, probably less than a milli ETH or a micro ETH. Any comments on that?
Yeah, so Patches has put out a post-mortem thing on it, because he was working, a little bit with Joel, or sorry, it's his interpretation of the of kind of like what happened and the impact. I think he's got like a good kind of like solution around that, but essentially we kind of missed adding it to this kind of like small change to the rolling records part of it, and when we usually test against like an alternative implementation, but it didn't quite work out at that time to be able to test it against that implementation. So I think going forward we need to make sure that we're testing against that kind of other implementation to make sure that there are no anomalies with those things, and obviously testing against, because we've got two modes with the rewards tree, so we're going to make sure we test against each other as well to make sure they're all consistent. But yeah, that's where we're at the moment with that.
Yeah, as the team thought about maybe just accepting one, I know that the old method was generating after the fact, and then we realized we could do I think it's rolling records, right, where it's constantly doing the calculations as epochs pass, so that way when rewards night comes up, or the end of the reward period comes up, it doesn't have to do the entire calculation for the last 28-day look back. It just simply trues up the epochs it doesn't have in its rolling accounting. But we thought about just supporting one of those. Are we feel comfortable enough in rolling, or no?
Yeah, that's the question that I asked in our team chat. You kind of, I think I'll double check what the answer. I don't know if I've got an answer. I'll need to find out. So that's definitely something that I'm exploring. I think my Fornex probably knows more than I do, but I think you kind of need it as a backup. You need the regular mode as a backup because the rolling records assumes that you are online and you've been online for a while. I'll need to double check with the guys around what's possible in terms of that.
Okay, yeah, just curious. Something I didn't know there. Okay, I mentioned that the other thing the biweekly had was a number of reports. There's some GMC reports about its treasury and spending. There was the PDAO treasurer's report that came out, and then the IMC reports about their budget. So I certainly encourage everyone to want to kind of take a deeper dive into what is the Rocket Pool protocol DAO doing for you and its various committees, I think a lot of it is probably best stated in these reports that are produced. So I encourage everyone to take a look at those if you haven't done so already. The other interesting post in governance is one that was posted, I believe, by Val, that was kind of seeking some input about the investment management committee, or the incentive management committee, excuse me, the IMC. And it wanted to know a couple of things. It wanted to know if our nomination process was appropriate, and it wanted, I believe, to know about the size of the IMC. It's right now a 6 of 9 multi-sig in committee, and there was feedback about whether that was sufficient or not. So I encourage you both to read the post and provide comments about that, because it's certainly the time, with nominations coming up here shortly in a few months for the IMC members, that it's probably a good time, if we are going to make a change, to make a change to that structure and organization. In terms of integrations, it looks like there was a lot of integrations here. One of those was StakeKit, now supports rETH for liquid staking in their Xeron app. An exciting one that maybe I'll ask a couple of questions is Hyperdrive. Hyperdrive is I guess it's the interface, or the node client, the smart node client for NodeSet, which, as you might know, here we had them on a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago. They're one of the protocols that's built on top of Rocket Pool, and an attempt to try to get more individuals to be able to deposit ETH on the node operator side versus the liquid staking side, to kind of help fund decentralized node operators in a trustless manner. So we'll come back to that one. We had on the call, I think 2 weeks ago, Flat Money and their integration. And Jasper did one, I believe, recently with Open Dollar, if I recall, regarding their integration. Both of those were with rETH to be used in their platform. So it is really great to see the continued integration of rETH as kind of a fundamental LST Lego brick in the DeFi ecosystem. And I think that's that in order to be a surviving LST protocol, you really do have to get that DeFi integration. You really have to make it as an interoperable Lego brick, and it's great to continue to see these integrations. I don't know, Langers, do you have any comments on this, or any thoughts about NodeSet?
Yeah, no, I think yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens post Houston, and NodeSet can kind of like launch. Yeah, it'd be good to kind of see how that kind of unfolds, and how much kind of more node operator capacity they can provide for the protocol. So they're a good team, and they've been in the community for a long time. So yeah, it'd be good to kind of see how they go.
Yeah, I think it's certainly going to be interesting to see how it goes. A little plug for them is they do have their open beta right now. So if you're if you want to check it out, reach over on their Discord. They are looking for more beta testers to check out their Hyperdrive smart node software. So definitely take some time to check it out. Media and marketing, just as we talked about the integrations, there's a great spreadsheet that's kind of updated called the DeFi update that lists a lot of places where you can start to use a lot of integrations. And I understand this time now they've also included kind of RPL as part of that token base. So take a look at that. There's improved DEX liquidity on Base, and so Gauntlet has now increased the supply and borrow caps for rETH on their platform called Moonwell. That's there. We had, I guess all these days are blending in my mind, but I guess it was last week where it was a fun one with both Jasper and I co-hosting together. That was fun for a little bit there. We had a special guest that was talking about DeFi in the Polygon system. And so that was kind of neat to see about their expanding integration on Polygon. And we also learned a little bit about Polygon's plans to become a Palladium on Ethereum and kind of move from being a Ethereum aligned but totally separate, alt layer one, aka an ETH killer. I don't think they would ever use that name, but to actually see that they would try to transition that that blockchain into becoming a Palladium. So I thought that was pretty interesting on that call. It's up on YouTube if you want to listen to the replay of it. It looks like Mav was interviewed. I haven't seen this one, by a YouTube influencer. I don't know, Langers, did you click on that to see what YouTube influencer was? Do I know that person?
I don't know.
I think that one came out of ETH Denver. But yeah, just chatting about a bit about Rocket Pool and a bit about my experience in the DeFi world. So yeah, it was a good chat. That was a few weeks ago now that it was recorded. Took them a little while to get it processed and uploaded.
Oh, excellent, excellent. I'll have to watch that. I always enjoy watching these things. I'll add it to my playlist here. And then last but not least, RPL has been listed on eToro. I guess for the uninformed, eToro, is that a SEX or a DEX here?
Yeah, that is a centralized exchange. They're pretty big as far as exchanges go, but not purely crypto. They list a whole lot of other assets. If I believe correctly, they kind of started out in the TradeFi world. At least I seem to recall hearing about them for a little while now. Yeah, another place potentially for everyone to buy and sell RPL.
Excellent, excellent. Well, that brings us to the listed and included items on the biweekly update here. Langers or Mav, are there any things that we didn't cover that weren't in here that you feel it's important we should share with the community?
No, I think that the only other thing that Mav's working kind of like hard on is to get us to DevCon like later on in the year. So maybe that's something that we can mention as well now. But yeah, no, that apart from that, I think that's probably it. Anything else, Mav, you reckon?
DevCon and potentially HODLerCon, which I know you're a part of, Ken. So free shout out there. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything. It would be good to see people in Bangkok in November. It's a little bit of an easier flight from Australia compared to most of the other events in the Northern Hemisphere, although of course that means it could be a little bit of a voyage for people like you, Ken, to get to Bangkok from the US. But yeah, the more people there, the merrier.
Yeah, it's definitely something I'm looking forward to. I just I hope I get a ticket. So if you know of anybody who knows of anybody that knows who I need to kill to get a ticket, let me know. But yeah, that's the thing. If not, you'll see me camping outside saying, we'll work for a ticket.
Yeah, I think we want to get Kane or someone speaking at DevCon, but I do keep an eye on, the channels they have, their website and their Twitter, to see when we can apply and when tickets are available. As far as I'm aware, still a bit of a waiting game, but it is, there's still a few months to go. We want to certainly start locking in some accommodation and some flights, but yeah, no need to panic quite yet.
Yeah, perfect. It's definitely something to look forward to. Well, excellent. Well, that brings us to kind of the end of the hour here. And, for those that want to stay on afterwards and chat a little bit in the channel, I'd strongly encourage it. But Mav and Langers, thank you very much for joining us today on the call.
Thanks, Ken. Always good to chat. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Ken. We're off to our stand-up meeting now, so if anyone wants to hang around, feel free to chat. Catch you on the next call.
All right. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.